You know you're capable of more. You know you have the potential. And you're smart, so you can see the gap between exactly where you are right now and where you want to be. And it feels like you're failing yourself because of the gap between the ideal version of you, where you are supposed to be, versus where you are now. But if you're actually intelligent and capable, why aren't you where you want to be? Is it because you're undisciplined? Or unmotivated? I don't really think so. You're smart enough to know that the discipline and motivation alone is not what separates the people who actually execute on their plans versus the people who are stuck in their heads. So what is it exactly? What is the differentiator? It's actually your identity. The identity of being the smart one, the one with the potential. And the fact that you're aware of that is actually what's keeping you stuck. Let me explain what I mean by this. As a kid, you probably get validated for being smart. Maybe your parents or teachers or maybe your friends told you that you're smart, you're so bright, you're gonna do amazing things. And maybe you were labeled as the gifted kid or the one with the potential. I was actually that kid. I was acing school, I was doing well with my friends. I didn't really struggle with anything in school as a kid. But when you are this kid, your whole identity becomes like, I'm the smart one. And it feels really great as a kid. You start a new thing, you're capable, you learn faster than others, and you're able to get really good results. And your teachers praise you, your parents praise you, your friends admire you. But as this goes on, being smart becomes who you are, not just what you do. But the problem is that when you become an adult, especially in your 20s and maybe even in your 30s, the entire structure actually collapses. Because like in school, how we define success is very clear. You get grades, and in order to get good grades, it's very clear that what you need to study. If you pass an exam, you pass an exam. If you fail an exam, you fail an exam. The success is very clear and the answer is very clear. But when you're an adult, there's no definitive answers anymore. No one really tells you what the right path is. You have to figure it out on your own. And also there are endless paths in front of you, whether that's career, whether that's relationships, whether that's like life directions overall. Nobody is giving you the definitive answer, but people still have expectations towards you. They're expecting you to figure that out because you're that kid with the potential. So they are expecting exceptional things from you. So it comes to a point where you are carrying everyone else's expectations plus your own high standards that you set for yourself. And maybe you haven't even tasted like true failure yet. Maybe everything came easy before, so you don't even know how to fail. And because you're smart and you're aware of your intelligence as well, you think you are supposed to figure this out on your own. But where it gets messed up is that whichever option you look at, whether that's career, relationships, personal goals, you see all the obstacles, like all the challenges, all the ways it could go wrong. Every path you consider, your brain immediately maps out every potential failure point. Because when you're smart, you have high awareness. You can see the bigger picture. You can precisely understand where you are and how far away you're from your goals. It's almost like having an HD vision of your own inadequacy. Adequacy is so hard to pronounce. And you seeing this gap between where you are now and where you want to be is the trap itself. Because being stuck or having actually a gap between your ideal self and your current self actually feels like you're failing in life. It's not necessarily you're failing at the task or the goal you're trying to pursue. It's more like failing at being who you are supposed to be. Failing at the one thing that's always defined you, which is being smart. And for other people, it means like, oh, this didn't work out, I failed. But for you, the internal monologue goes, maybe I'm actually not smart. Maybe all those people who believed in you were wrong. Maybe I was wrong about myself. Maybe I am not that bright. So this gap literally threatens your whole identity. That's why you get way more sensitive towards failure than other people, because for you, failure is not acceptable. It's not something that you're used to. So you cannot handle failure. So what you do, you absolutely want to avoid failure, right? So you start to optimize for the non-existing problems that haven't even arisen yet because you haven't started. But because you don't want to fail so badly, you think about all the potential solutions to all possible problems that can occur in future. Because you can also quit, because quitting would mean failure. And that's a threat to your identity. So you research, learn, optimize and optimize and optimize and think for the problems that have never even happened. And this actually makes you more and more perfectionist day by day. Not because you love excellence, but because anything less than perfect feels like an evidence of you're not enough and maybe you're not smart enough. And this perfectionism trap is actually very hard as an adult, especially in your 20s where you haven't experienced that many failures in different areas of your life because you're not able to take action. You know where you want to go, you know you're capable, but you're terrified to take action. The hardest part of all of this is that when you have this mindset, when you have this outlook in life, even when you do succeed, even when you accomplish something you worked hard for, you don't feel happy, you don't feel proud, you just feel relieved that you didn't fail. It's almost like you dodged a bullet. Your inner voice goes, I just did what was expected. It's actually not a big deal. Anyone could have done this. I should have done better. You start to downplay everything. You don't celebrate, you don't acknowledge the effort you put in, you downplay your own success. Because for you, success isn't a win, it's just expected. It's normal, it's what you're supposed to do. You're not even happy that you won. You're just relieved that you didn't lose. And this suffering spiral isn't that just you overthink and you overanalyze. It's that you are never present at this moment because you're constantly running away from failure instead of running towards something. This is something that I realized actually about myself. It's not that the overthink, the overanalysis part that was causing the suffering for me. It was actually the fact that I was never present in this moment because I'm constantly running away from failure instead of running towards something. I'm so busy trying not to fail that I can't enjoy growth, appreciate effort, or even be here at this moment. I couldn't even experience my own life as it's happening because I'm always in my head planning my next move. So the question becomes then, how do we break this cycle though? Because I finally started to with baby steps get out of this loophole. You can see me being consistent on social media because I was overthinking every single freaking thing even before I posted, but I decided to stop that. This analysis paralysis, the stuck mode, never feeling happy, never feeling present. How are we going to achieve this? What is the exact thing that helped me to get out of this loop? Because this is an endless loop. One thing that I realized is that genuinely when I'm in this analysis paralysis mode and I'm overthinking and over-researching for everything, I genuinely think I'm actually being productive and I'm actually doing something helpful for myself by researching and learning more. And it definitely feels like progress in that moment because my brain is working hard. So the question actually becomes, how do I catch myself when I'm ruminating versus actually planning? Learning this differentiation is the first step, in my opinion, because sometimes you really do need to learn, but sometimes it's just excessive. But how do we differentiate this? And also, I thought to myself, how can I do this every single day? Because not just once. If I do it once, okay, it's fine. But this is how I operate. This is how I think. So in a week, I will definitely come back to that spiral, 100% guaranteed. So how can I actually implement this mindset of stopping over analyzing, but also keeping the knowledge active so that I constantly learn and grow, but actually execute on it? I realized there are actually 5 pattern interrupts that we need to do. So the first interrupt that we need to do is catching the spiral and externalizing the noise. So what we're trying to do in this step is identifying whether this problem exists right now or is it about a problem that might arise in the future. This is the most important filter. So in order to understand and in order to get out of the spiral of analysis paralysis, we need to externalize our brain. We need to free up the mental space to actually make a decision, because as long as it's in your head, it just goes endlessly. Right? You probably know this. If you're an overthinker like me, you know this, right? Your brain doesn't stop. What does it look like in your day-to-day life, right? How are you actually going to externalize this mental torture that you're doing to yourself? I basically do something called brain dump every morning using my Kaizen system, which is designed to help people break out of this constant guilt and shame of feeling stuck. And if you're interested, check out my website, rudiohama.com. You can get Kaizen from there. But anyway, what I do essentially is that every single day I open my Kaizen system and I go to my Kaizen log, which is basically a daily exercise that you do when you get the Kaizen system. And the first step that you need to do in the Kaizen system is doing a brain dump. Essentially, a brain dump is you're literally dumping every single thought, every single worry, every single problem that you're trying to solve, and every single thing that you think you need to do into this page. You're dumping everything. You're getting everything out of your head. I used to actually use a journal, pen, and paper for this, but I realized that when I'm in this stuck cycle, my brain is just not stopping. Typing would become very annoying for me, that I would not stick with this brain dump. So for this, I actually found a solution and I use an app called Whisper Flow. And I'm not sponsored or anything. I just love the app. What it allows you to do is that you can create like shortcut keys, whether you're using a PC and you can also use it on your phone if you have an iPhone. And what it does is that like you can literally brain dump as a voice and it transcribes it and it turns into a text. It's way better than other like transcription tools that I have tried, and I've been using it with my Kaizen brain dump. So what I do is that like every single day I open it and then I just like brain dump. I'm non-stop talking about the things that are going in my head, everything that I need to deal, almost like you're talking to your therapist, right? I do that. And once I get everything out of my mind, Whisper also like turns them into like more readable and more scammable format. It creates like bullet points, it creates like punctuations and stuff like that. So it's way easier to skim through when you do this. So I love that. I'm not sponsored again. After I go through like this brain dump, what I do is I basically go through everything that I dumped and ask myself, which of these problems exist right now? And for the ones that is actually requiring my current attention, I highlight them on Kaizen so that it's visually more appealing. And for the ones that might like appear in the future, I just put them as it is. Because the great thing about like Kaizen system is that it's hosted on Notion. So you can always find these brain dumps, you can always revisit them. And I created in a way where you can go through all of your past logs so that you can relocate them. So they're there and you know they are there. Because when I used to like journal with my pen and paper, and when I used to use like my iPad to do so, I would never be able to relocate them. And it would drive me crazy. But now, because I know everything that went through my brain is in my brain dump and I can look at my past logs, it just like lifts up that anxiety of what if I forget about this thing? What if I this? So I'm a big fan of Kaizen, brain dump, and Whisper Flow combination. It's definitely a game changer. It's almost like therapy. And when I do this, I also like realize the thoughts that were going in my head that I didn't even notice. Like I was like, what the heck? This is so stupid. Why am I even thinking about this? I haven't even started yet. When you externalize it, you're able to see it way from like further. So you create a space between your head and what is actually going on. And I feel like this alone just like makes the spiraling way better, because most of the time when we're in this spiral, we don't even notice that we're spiraling because it has become a natural way for us to respond. Like you can definitely do this with a pen and paper, or maybe you can even do this like using like a voice memo or something. You don't necessarily need to get my Kaizen system, but personally, Kaizen system really helped me to do this, apply this every single day, because I forget it, okay? But when it tells me every single morning, it's way easier for me to stick. So if you're interested, check out rudiohama.com. If not, it's completely fine. So what are we gonna do after we externalize this information and we're seeing this? Which comes to the interrupt 2. This is our second step, returning to today and picking our signal. So we externalize this chaos, right? Now our goal is to return to today and actually live life instead of just preparing for the future problems that might arise. And the concept that I really like actually is in Japanese. And it goes ichinichi issho, which means one day, one life. What it basically means is that every day is a complete life in itself. So today is not necessarily a preparation for tomorrow. Today is the only life that you have, because tomorrow might not come and past will never come ever again. So today is the only moment that you actually have right now. I always think about future, what I want to do in my like 30s, 40s, but I don't know, I might not even see those days. Anyway, right, so when we think about it, today is the only promised day that you have. And when I think about this, I don't know, it just gives me goosebumps when I first read this. Because, this matters for me, especially as someone that keeps treating today as like a stepping stone. I tell myself like, once I finish this project, I will relax. Once I hit this milestone, then I will be happy. But then that never comes. The goal just keeps moving further and further, and I'm never satisfied. I try to remind myself always that it's not that when I achieve this, I'm going to do this. No. What if that day never comes? Today is the only life that I have. Focus on the life that you're living right now already. Like, stop. But then like when I try to live today, right? Like actually be in the moment, I wake up, I open my to-do list, and I immediately see like 47 tasks staring for my attention, and I get overwhelmed. And then I feel like already so lost in my head. So I cannot really focus on right now because I'm so overwhelmed. And then my brain would freeze, like try to prioritize them and try to figure out what to focus on today. And I would end up doing nothing. I'm diagnosed with ADHD and I get overwhelmed very easily. So what I actually started to do is asking myself, what's the thing that I can do in the next 16 hours of my awake time that would make today a win? that would make today feel like success? What would give me the most amount of fulfillment? I'm not necessarily even saying that the thing that I have to do, but the thing that will give me fulfillment and that would make today a high satisfaction day. This is basically the second step of actually my daily Kaizen log, which is the daily highlight. So you pick this thing, one thing that is going to be the highlight of your day. But if you get this just one thing done, today is success. And if you're not using Kaizen, you can literally just go through your brain dump and circle that, highlight that, whatever you want to do. In Kaizen, we have a section of daily highlight, so you can log that there automatically and it will show up as a daily highlight in your homepage. Because actually doing this daily highlight practice every single day really get me out of that analysis paralysis and perfectionist mindset. Because before I would think to myself, okay, I got this done. What's the next task? What's the next task? But when you have a daily highlight, your priority, your focus for that day, your direction for that day is already determined. So it just takes out a lot of overwhelm for me personally. And also other members of Kaizen said that their favorite feature is daily highlight again and again and again. So this is definitely a practice that I want you to take away from this video. And basically at the end of the day, every single day you tell to yourself, did I accomplish my daily highlight? And if so, you can do a check mark. In Kaizen, it's very simple. You can track it very easily. So once you picked your daily highlight, your win for the day, then what comes next, which is our interrupt number 3, basically our step 3, which is making action safe. So what do I mean by making action safe? What I realized that even when I pick a daily highlight, sometimes the issue is starting. Even if there's only one thing that you need to get done that day, sometimes it's almost impossible to get started, to start action. Let's say you're trying to write something, opening that document feels like torture, right? And the reason because of that is because starting is the hardest part oftentimes. And your brain sees it still like a test. If you have been a overthinker for such a long time, your brain is still scared of failure, no matter whether you pick the daily highlight or not. So to prevent this, I actually do something called micro-commitment. Basically, micro-commitment, what you do is that you make action so small that feeling starts safe, right? You're not telling yourself to complete the project, but you're telling yourself to open the file. You're not telling to yourself that go through these research papers, but you're telling yourself that just read the first paragraph. Let's say it can be even you're not telling yourself start a business. You're telling yourself, send one email to a potential client. You're basically trying to remove the fear of failure by making the action so small and making the action focusing on the first action of the bigger step. And this isn't actually only for habits. This is actually for anything that you've been avoiding. Let's say your room is a mess. Instead of telling yourself, I'm going to clean my room, you tell to yourself, just maybe wipe your desk. That's it. That's the starting act. Because for most of the things in life, right? Not even for goals, maybe even for organizing your home. I'm very messy, by the way. So me right now and cleaning my entire house, there's a huge gap between where I am and where I want to go. So if I tell myself that I need to clean my house, even if I clean my room, if I don't clean my kitchen or bathroom, it's still a failure. So I haven't done the thing. So I'm not going to feel good about myself. Therefore, it's not going to reinforce that behavior, right? It's almost like giving a treat to your dog when it does a good thing. We have to also treat our mind as well. Your brain goes, okay, I'm actually doing the thing that I promised to myself. So actually moving becomes way easier. And if you're in the analysis paralysis, the thing that you need to do is taking a one step forward, basically breaking action so small that you're not focusing on the outcome or the bigger picture, because if you do that, it's going to be a win or failure. But you're focusing on the first action because our goal is to create that positive enforcement to your brain, a positive and safe environment for your brain to do something, because there is no clear fail or win. You just start and you make it so small, the friction is not that even big. When you make the action so tiny, the friction, you reduce this friction. And not only that, you reduce the fear of failing. Because if you tell to yourself you're going to crush the gym, then you're creating this expectation. But if you're telling yourself, I'm just going to wear my workout clothes and we'll see whether I go to the gym or not, you're creating that safe environment for someone like you who's high perfectionist and doesn't allow themselves to fail. So it's all about creating that positive reinforcement as well as a safe environment. And you can do this by micro-commitment practice. And this is also, wow, shocker, a part of the daily Kaizen log. Basically, it's this third step. You can do this every single morning. You get a page in the Kaizen log. And when you click on that, you do your brain dump. You dump everything. You pick your daily highlight. And you choose this micro commitment for you to actually act. And in your progress tracker in Kaizen, you can compare, you can visually see how you've been doing, your streaks for that month, as well as how you're doing compared to your last week, so that you can see whether you are actually improving, or maybe not doing well compared to the last week. And you can also see what you have picked, like for your daily highlight and micro commitment, which is quite interesting. I always like to check them out because it's so fun. So Kaizen makes it very visual for you to track things and be aware of this practice every single day. Because like if you would tell me, do this with pen and paper, sure, I'll do it for 3 days, but then I'll forget. But if it's in my home page in my Kaizen system, every single day when I open it, I see it, then it becomes way easier. It just becomes a part of your day. So now let's talk about the interrupt 4, which is letting go of outcomes, which is almost like impossible, right? I am so obsessed with outcomes. I just want to check how I'm doing because it is the indicator of whether I'm succeeding or not. So I love looking at analytics. I love looking at results, and it creates this analysis paralysis once again. I swear to God, this loop is so hard to get out. I know. So one thing that I realized, and I'm trying to remind myself every single day, is that yes, outcomes are indeed important, right? Like, because why the hell are we doing it if like outcomes are not important? Like, of course we're going to care about the outcome. Everything that is valuable in life, outcomes, comes from consistency, not from just one perfect day. And also, everyone says quality over quantity, but actually quality comes from quantity. How the heck are you supposed to have a quality output without putting the quantity first? Unless you're like a child prodigy or something. Even like child prodigy, child geniuses go through a tremendous amount of work. Sure, they're like way faster than others, but still they practiced a lot. Even if you're like let's say a talented, basketball player, are you going to be able to beat, Michael Jordan in your first day of basketball? No. How do you think you're going to produce that quality of work in your first time? And you can't optimize what doesn't exist yet. So stop talking about quality when you haven't practiced quantity yet. I'm reminding to myself, okay? I'm talking to myself right now. I'm seeing it as myself. There's actually like one philosophy in Japanese, which is fudochi, basically acting without attachment to outcome. This way of thinking essentially comes from Zen and letting go of the outcome, that kind of philosophy. I was thinking to myself, okay, sure, I want to act and reduce the attachment to the immediate outcome that I want to have, but how can I do that? What I realize is that the first goal that we need to focus on is just showing up, actually. Once you build the habit and streak of showing up, then you can optimize. But when you haven't even practiced and be able to consistent, I told myself, you're not even allowed to optimize. I remind myself again and again that it's not even about how do I optimize, how do I improve the result. The first focus that I need to focus on is how do I improve my process so that it's way easier for me to be consistent. For example, let's say you're trying to get fit. The focus is not how much do I weigh, how do I look, how much weight I'm losing or body fat I'm losing, but the focus is how can I hit the gym more consistently? How can I remove the barriers from me, let's say coming from work and then going to the gym? That is the first focus that we need to tackle. And once you've solved the consistency, once you're going to the gym consistently, then you can care about how you're going to make your workout sessions better. Because anything meaningful in life comes with delayed gratification. Whether you want to get fit, whether you want to build a YouTube channel, or whether even you want to have a good relationship with anyone, the result comes way later than your action. Just because you hit the gym once, are you going to have abs tomorrow morning? No. You're not going to have that. And when we focus on outcome, we quit because it is painfully delayed. That's why a lot of people struggle with getting fit, right? If you got fit, the moment you hit the gym, you have a six-pack, do you think it will be that desirable? No. And then we quit. And the reason why we quit is not that you're not capable to hit the gym, but it's because you're focusing on the wrong metric. And it's keep telling you that you're failing because you're not getting fit immediately, or you're not building that YouTube channel that you're dreaming of right now at this moment. So when we focus on the wrong metric, it tells us that we are a failure right now. But when you focus on the right metric, it keeps you telling that you're doing great, you're on the right path, and you're able to focus on what matters and keep going. So we have to switch our focus from, did I get the result that I want? Did I hit this subscriber? Did I get this revenue? But the question is, did I show up? Because when you track showing up, you see the progress even when outcomes aren't there yet. You're building the consistency that outcomes require. You're not dependent on external validation to feel like you're moving, because you can see visually that you're moving if you're tracking it. The key is essentially tracking your progress instead of tracking the outcomes, tracking your consistency, whether you showed up. That's why basically we have a progress tracker in Kaizen, so that you can see it, because results will not come right now. But you can see the fact that you are showing up, and that will show you whether you're doing the thing or you're just optimizing in your head. Obviously, you can do this with like a habit tracker or whatever tracker that you want to use. You don't necessarily have to have Kaizen. I'm not like trying to be a sneaky salesman and convince you that this is the only way that you're going to achieve it. No, I just like build it because I need it and it's helpful. It's cool. I love my system. But if you don't want to get it, it's fine. Okay, so then you might be thinking, okay, like now we're tracking, okay, I'm consistent, but how am I going to do whether I'm doing and going in the right way, that I'm actually improving, which is our last step. The interrupt 5, which is noticing when it's working. Because just doing the thing alone is also not going to get you there. Like, if you do the thing, you'll be successful. Does it actually the case? If you're going to the wrong direction, you're just going to move forward towards that wrong direction. So what's important is actually doing a reflection, actually giving yourself a feedback and having that feedback mechanism and improving to the right direction. So how can we do this? I think the best way to do this is actually reflecting on your actions and creating next action steps for yourself. This is actually something called the Kaizen, the whole Kaizen method. The Kaizen method actually comes from Toyota, which they use this in their company for every single decision that they make. The Kaizen method actually consists of PDCA, plan, do, check, and act. So every single thing that you plan, you do it, you checked, you reflect, and then you act based on your reflection, essentially. So for every single thing that we have done, we have to reflect back and see what went well, what didn't go well, and how we can do better next. When you do this reflection, you're not just being consistent, but you're also doing a tiny tweaks. Kaizen means continuous improvement and small improvements, constantly. And this is what the method is. This is essentially what Toyota does. And this is where the Kaizen sort of the whole philosophy and method comes. When you actually track your progress, like your daily highlights and micro commitments, you're going to start to see a pattern. And when you reflect yourself, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can I do better next week, you're going to come up with specific solutions that you can act right now. For example, I realized that when I don't do my brain dump first thing in the morning, I skip it sometimes, I'm gonna be honest. I realize I'm way more distracted during the day. I start to research about random stuff. I find myself in a rabbit hole because I don't know what the hell am I supposed to do today. And I also realized, for example, when I work from home 3 days in a row, I start to procrastinate, I start to doom scroll. So now I go to the library every 2 days or so to break that pattern. When you be consistent, sure, being consistent is important, but also reflecting what you can do better, what went well, what didn't go well, and then improving and applying to that into the next week is what matters, because you can keep doing the same thing again and again and again, but if you're never improving, then we can never be sure whether you're moving to the right direction. So that's why I also have a weekly reflection feature in Kaizen, which essentially will show you your task completion, what kind of tasks you have accomplished during the week, whether you have completed your daily highlights, and it can also compare your daily highlight completion rate versus last week, as well as your micro commitments and any tasks that you have forgotten, and your also time breakdown between what kind of tasks you have completed. And it will also give you feedback on how you can improve next week. It shows you the patterns that you would miss normally, and it helps you to stop and reflect what went well, what didn't go well. And because it's integrated in the system, you don't have to remind yourself doing this, and you don't have to go through everything every single week. It is just integrated in the system. It happens automatically, and it's quite fun to actually go through it, because you'll see some weeks you're doing great, some weeks maybe you're not doing great, and you will be able to see the reason why you weren't maybe doing that well. You're going to be able to identify the patterns so that you can improve, because Kaizen is based on the philosophy that small improvements over time beats the one perfect day, because the key is consistent reflection and consistent improvement and consistent adjustment. So to summarize everything, right, because this was a very long video and maybe you're confused now, essentially the daily flow is that you do a brain dump first. You externalize a noise. Then you pick your daily highlight, the thing that will define today's success. That's the one thing that you need to accomplish today. Anything else is just a noise. And then you turn this daily highlight, or maybe the thing that you're putting off, into a micro commitment action, which is the smallest action that you can take to make action safe for you and to reduce that friction of starting. Then you do the thing without focusing on the outcome, but focusing on the input, whether you showed up. And you reflect on these inputs weekly or your preferred frequency by doing a reflection and asking yourself what went well, what could have been better, and what I'm going to do next week to improve. When you keep doing this, when you implement this into your life, it essentially redirects your smart brain, that overthinking brain, from imagining futures to today. It builds the evidence that you can show up, which reduces fear over time. It catches the spiral before it happens, and it makes action psychologically safe, and you reinforce yourself again and again that it's okay. You're not failing, you're doing great, and you're capable, you know that, and it makes taking action, starting, and stopping this analysis paralysis way easier. You don't necessarily need Kaizen to do this, right? Like, I'm not gonna act like this is the only way. You can do this with journals, Google Docs, whatever apps you want to use. You can maybe create your own version even. But the reason why I built Kaizen is because I wanted it to be automatic. When I'm in this analysis paralysis mode, I do not have the energy. Like, I don't even recognize that I'm in an analysis paralysis. Sometimes by like literally Cloud AI, when I'm like chatting with it, says like, girl, you're spiraling. Like literally it says that to me, and I'm like, oh, I didn't recognize that. It just became a nature to me. So I wanted something that's automatic and that reminds me every single day, because I will definitely forget. Like, this is literally how I function. And I need it in one place, like every day, that I can use in the same structure so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel every single freaking day. And I want it to be searchable. I want it to be accessible from everywhere, like from my phone to my tablet to my PC. And I wanted to have it right in front of me. And now that also you can use Notion offline, like I can access Kaizen everywhere. So what I did, that I basically built a system to get me out of this loop. And it really helped me. Like, you see me being consistent on social media. I'm hitting the gym. I even started golf and I'm being consistent on it as well. Like, my mom is even shocked. Like, she said, like, what's going on? So, Kaizen moves that friction for you. And if you're already struggling with taking an action, creating something from scratch is going to be hard. Sure, you can do it, but if you want to remove that friction and if you want to just get started, check out Kaizen system from my website, rudiohama.com. I hope this video was helpful, and I want to know what you're struggling with your analysis paralysis. Like, oftentimes I'm struggling with my YouTube videos and my life overall as an analysis paralysis. I want to know what you're struggling with, what you're stuck with. What is the biggest issue right now in your life? Like, let me know in the comments. I actually read every single comment, even though I can't reply all of them physically, but I really love reading comments, and I would love to know what you're spiraling with. What is the thing that's keeping you stuck right now? And I also want to know what part of this video actually resonated with you, so that I can make more videos that can be helpful. And if you found this video helpful, I think you will find this video helpful, where I talk about why the smartest people in the room is actually not the richest. Watch this. See you. Don't forget to check out Kaizen, okay? It's really good, I promise. Bye.